Let me first say I loved Ironheart so much. It was so much fun, and it was so cool to hear somebody that talks like me and my friends in the street. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am, I
I
do.
really like that. I was like, oh, she talking like me and my girls. It was all good in the hood. I was so excited for that. But what I like to know from both of you is, when was the first time you picked up a Marvel comic book? And if that wasn't the case, when was the first time you were turned on to the MCU? And we'll go with ladies first and start with Chinaka.
My first time picking up a Marvel comic book must have been I was 18. Um, and it was they were the first shop that I saw that had figurines too. Like it was that era where the pops first started coming up, the Funkos, or the generation that preceded it. And yeah, I remember when I was a kid growing up, I wasn't allowed to watch things on TV unless they had a black person or a woman in the lead role, and so I applied that to the comic books as well. I immediately went through and started trying to find um, anyone that looked like me, and in that era there weren't. And so I remember when Eve, who was my good friend, told me about Ironheart. And this was before I knew I would ever be involved with the project. Just the feeling of overwhelming joy of just knowing there was going to be somebody who talked and sounded like me in the MCU, and code switches like me in the MCU. I think was really exciting.
My older cousin Jamon was a comic book fan. He's 7 years older than me, so he had all the comics around his house. I would go over there. Um, his mom would babysit me, my aunt Kathy, so I would pick his comic books up. And my dad is a amateur cartoonist, so he would buy black owned comic books in Oakland all the time. He would have them around the house. There was one called Brother Man that he would have around the house, and he had all of the milestone books. My dad, he had like the All Static Shock and Icon and Young Bloods. So yeah, I was around them since like my earliest memories. I was around.
Oh man, great question. And I mean, it goes back to Iron Man 1 for me. Like I wrote my paper to get into film school on Iron Man 2. Like I've been a fan, I've been following since the beginning. And then when I was in college, I got into the comics and I realized how many great stories were untold in that vast, array of storytelling. So they had me right from the beginning.
I mean, for me, like the original exposure I had was X-Men, the animated series in the 90s when I was a kid, just watching the show that while it was animated and a cartoon, I could just tell it was dealing with themes and ideas that were so far above my head, but made me want to kind of aspire towards that. And then when the MCU came into full, mode basically with Iron Man, I was of course a fan. And then when my partner and good friend Ryan directed Black Panther, it blew my mind once again as far as like these movies can really deal with so many themes far above what you would imagine a comic book movie to deal with. So to be able to work on the show with Zoe and Kelsey and Brad and Kevin, everybody, it was a dream come true.
I want to talk a little bit about the casting, because the casting for this was just, it was so good. We get to see Anthony Ramos be like really kind of nasty. We see all these different flavors of Dominique. It's just so much going on. How long did it take to cast the film, and how did you land on Dominique and Anthony?
I mean, casting was a very extensive process. We have in a lot of ways, especially when you have a heist crew, it's very particular to find people who will embody something unique and different, but yet still fit chemistry wise on a team. Not to mention the non-heist characters. So it was an extensive process, and we really found just the most incredible people to bring these characters to life. Dominique was a no-brainer from the beginning. We were all very aware of her because she had auditioned to play Shuri in Black Panther 1, and obviously, Proximity has worked with her many times over. So as soon as Ryan had the idea to put the character of Riri in Wakanda Forever, she was the first and only call that they made. And then Anthony, for us, he just embodied this character. I think people don't expect him to play a villain, but the beauty of this villain, he's kind of an anti-villain. He's very charming. He has to draw you in. You need to believe that Riri would work with him. And so in order to do that, we needed to find someone who had that sort of charismatic, warm demeanor, but could also play the teeth of the character and play the edge of the character. So I think they both were the only and perfect people for these parts.
You broke that all the way down, Zoe. Thank you so much. much. I was very excited. I'm like, okay, I gotta know about the casting because that's my jam. I also wanted to know in this little bit of time that I have left, Sev, how did you and Ryan began collabing quite some time ago? But can you tell us what you're gonna be working on next? Can you give a sister a scoop?
And I can tell you that we have at our company Proximity that I founded with Ryan and Zinzi Coogler, we have a docu-series coming out next month that has not yet been announced, but look out for a trailer on that very soon. We have another Marvel series called Eyes of Wakanda that will drop in August, which is an animated spin-off of Black Panther. And beyond that, we have so many fun things in development, whether they're movies, TV shows. One thing, if you want to get more Ryan and Proximity, I certainly recommend people check out In Proximity, which is our podcast that will be dropping a special Ironheart episode, maybe in a week or two, you'll see, and a whole lot more later this year.
I love that. You guys want to clear up the misconception because people are out in the streets thinking that Ironheart is a spinoff or an extension of Iron Man, and I know that that is not the case. Y'all want to handle that? Y'all want to clear it up for the people?
Initially, it kind of was like in publishing, but then, but then, but then she got her own moniker, you know, and she became Ironheart shortly after she was introduced. And so in the MCU, she's always been Ironheart. She's never been Iron Man.
One of the very first things we wrote into the show was we call it the walk of shame after she falls in Chicago and she has to get up on the ground. All the people are walking behind her, and we created a whole long it was a very abridged version of what you saw. But yeah, I think everyone's got an assumption about who she is, and I think it really is Riri's way, top to bottom, to say no, I am my own person. And even she talks about his immense contributions to the field right away, and there's space for her as well. And I think me as a creative, I live in that but and space too, where I herald all the amazing filmmakers who came before me. I went to USC, literally walked into a Spielberg building every day, and nobody can make the movies that Spielberg can make but him, but nobody can make what we can make but us. So I think it's the same way for Riri, that she knows she's the only one who can make the suit for her.
On paper, it might sound like it's the next Iron Hero, next Iron Man or whatever, but that's not necessarily who she is. She takes a lot of inspiration from Tony Stark and certainly honors him in every way possible, but she's very much her own character. And we introduced her in the MCU in Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever, where she had a very important but small role in that film. And Ironheart, the series, is our chance to go home with her and see what makes her tick and get a sense for her friends, and she gets to obviously go on this crazy journey. But absolutely, for Riri, she is very much her own character. She's in a lot of ways the opposite of Tony Stark. She doesn't come from a billion-dollar legacy. She has to kind of scrap and be resourceful and make her own way. But that's also what I think makes for a really fun character, just watching an underdog overcome everything she possibly can.
You absolutely right. You, Proximity, Ryan, y'all did this, okay? 5,000% you did it. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. I have been dying for this opportunity. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
It's an honor to meet you.
It's our joy.
I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Hold up. Wait a minute. I wish you love, peace, and hair grease.
Love, peace, and hair grease, y'all.